Chris Duffin coming at you from Kabuki Strength, and today, Coach Brandon here is gonna take it away on scapular function. I'm the model for the day. All right.
You're my model for today.
There we
You
go.
will be my muse. I will paint you like all of my beautiful French lifters that I probably coach one of. Okay, so we're talking scapular function, and this conversation is important because powerlifters, strength athletes fill up a lot of their training time with rowing exercises. But your rowing exercises could be more effective if you actually used your rowing muscles more efficiently and effectively. So we're going to talk through some of the different functions of the scapula, faults that we see in the lat pull down. These are also going to be faults that are similar in pull-ups. These are also going to be faults that some of which are common in horizontal rowing exercises, but this is mostly specific to your actual lat pull down variations. So the first fault that we see is excessive extension of the thoracic spine. So Chris, we notice people who really lean really far back. There's a few reasons that they're going to do that. The first of which could be a lack of end range shoulder mobility. And so by accommodating that lack of mobility, they actually end up changing their position into extension in order to continue to move without dumping. If the individual who lacks overhead mobility were to keep a perfectly stacked torso and row or perform a lat pull down, they would end up being in this position at the bottom. So oftentimes when you see someone extend, it's to get away from that forward dumping position that is all too common. The next fault that we'll see is someone who's really focused on maintaining their trunk position, but they can't really control their scapula, traps, and lats at the very bottom of the position. This is going to be seen as a dumping effect or a raised elbow at the bottom or a bias towards shoulder internal rotation.
Might have to lower the weight to demo that one.
For those of you who didn't hear that, he said he might have to lower the weight for this one. Yeah, that's a very ugly press. It's not that common, but if you are somebody who has a really locked up thoracic spine, you're someone who has a bit more kyphosis, it's very easy to slip into that fault. The final one that we're going to talk about, and this is probably the main one that we see along with the extended posture, is trying to leave your scapulas in one place to better use your lats. So the truth is about the scapula is it acts in accordance with the shoulder. So anytime the shoulder moves, the scapula should also be moving. So the proper way to do a lat pull down with proper scapular function is not elevating the scapula. So think about like shrugging your shoulders here, Chris. This would be really scapular elevation. It's not a great position to be from a shoulder health standpoint. What we want to see is this scapula upwardly rotate at the top of the rep. We can see upward rotation, and now Chris pulls, we're going back into deep shoulder or scapular depression and slight retraction. So we're not...
I gotta lower the weight again. There's a lot of time.
Well, yeah, we get that's showbiz.
Yeah. Been hanging on this bar for a little while, especially after all the work before this. Okay.
Now, we'll want to keep in mind or take special note of how Chris's traps and scapulas are working together and how they look when he faults. A lot of times people are going to try and use a real full range of motion on their lat pull downs, and that's going to be like a big shrug up top, and that's the exact position we're trying to avoid with the scapula. So we want a lot of upward rotation through here, and we want it to come back into downward rotation and depression. And that's really what we're after. So we want full scapular movement here and then all the way back up through here. And that's really what we're after. We want to avoid using a ton of these traps. And in fact, if you were to press on them, they should still be kind of soft. They shouldn't be totally contracted and turned on. But if we can move the scapula in this manner, we're going to likely have better global shoulder function in our overhead pressing and probably even our bench pressing. So really, we have to pay very special attention to actually moving the scapula the way that it's designed to. And it's really a myth that if you lock your scapula in place, you're going to have healthy shoulders, because the scapulas are a primary shoulder stability structure that connects a ton of muscles to your shoulder as well as your pecs. And other surrounding muscles in the traps, rhomboids, and
that lovely
elsewhere.
word we love to pronounce, scapulohumeral rhythm, but it really needs to be working in a rhythm altogether, so it's in the right position at the right time, depending on where the shoulder's at. And locking that down, we see that a lot, even in rowing type movements like the face pull, where people lock it into place. And that's how people have been taught to bench press for a long time. Lock it in place, and we're not taking advantage of the shoulder and using it the way that it should. It can both inhibit your progress, but also potentiate injury. So, not necessarily cause it, but it can definitely potentiate. Yep.